Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Echo Show. I'm your host, Maui. We were not going to be going live tonight, but events that have happened in the last 24 hours made us have to go live. And usually I ask people to donate to the Echo Theater Collective if they can, but tonight we're not doing that. Tonight, I want you, if you can give, in lieu of our pay what you can for the Echo Show, please instead donate to Black Lives Matter tonight. That's what we're asking. So tonight we have some pretty awesome guests on, and first let me bring in my co-host, Lotus. Lotus, how you doing tonight?
We're here.
We're here. We out here. So we have some awesome guests tonight. A little context before we bring in our first guest. And we'll, instead of us talking about it, we'll actually hear the words of the guests themselves. Let me do my fancy screen share that I finally figured out, because I'm not old. I'm figuring this stuff out. Well, I am, but I'm learning technology. Let's not be ageist. All right, so let's bring this up, and I'm just a little context. This is a quick 2-minute video that we're going to play here.
I saw what Flint, Michigan and Washington, D.C. had done with their Black Lives Matter street murals, and I felt really inspired. We have an Oak Park residents Facebook page, and so I posted in that just to kind of see what the residents' feedback would be, and the overwhelming majority of people were on board to get this thing done. We reached out to the Village of Oak Park, and they put us in touch with the Oak Park Arts Council and Camille Wilson White. And once we were in contact with her, this all went very smoothly.
And making sure that we're going to have enough young artists out here painting this mural, I reached out to some of the past apprentices who've been to the Arts Council's Off the Wall program. They had a great time and were so moved to be a part of painting this first Black Lives mural in the state of Illinois.
We felt that this was the best spot because it is right off of Lake Street, one of our main streets, a block from the high school, and you'll be able to see it coming westbound on the Green Line. People coming through our town know that this is where we stand as a community.
Everybody was working together to bring this important message that Black Lives Matter. That's important. People need to understand how important it is, and hopefully all people will embrace it.
We want this to be seen for years to come, and for kids who are potentially walking down the street with their parents to see Black Lives Matter written in 100 feet, to get educated about the history behind the Black Lives Matter movement.
Sounds great. I hadn't seen that one before.
Yeah, that was put up as on the Village of Oak Park website. So that's pretty awesome, pretty inspiring stuff. And actually, oh, sorry, this thing is still going, and it's in my ear. Stop it. All right, here we go. So, yeah, it was awesome. And actually, Monday, was it Monday or Tuesday? It's Tuesday, right?
Today's Wednesday.
No, yesterday that we went walking, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
And we actually walked to the mural because I hadn't seen it in person yet. And it was beautiful. And then today we wake up to some pretty shocking news. Lotus, if you wouldn't mind telling our audience what we found out.
Yeah, so probably sometime last night, the Black Lives Matter mural was defaced by we don't know who, and they painted over the letters so that way it said all lives matter. Particularly interesting is the use of white paint to make the all.
I think it was white paper. White paper. I think so.
Yeah, and this happened right after or alongside another incident that happened in Evanston where a similar Black Lives Matter mural was defaced as well. And apparently this is not isolated in Illinois and California as well. there have been Black Lives Matter murals that have been defaced to say things like "All Lives Matter" or "White Lives Matter." And so it does seem like this is part of a pattern that's happening right now in our climate.
So we felt the need to go live tonight and reached out to the young man who put this together. He's I believe the lead organizer on this. And so we're gonna welcome him to the show right now, Cullen Benson. Everybody,
how's it going, guys? Oh, I'm a little. Let me move here. I got a bit of a shadow now. I guess.
Yeah. Come on, you're a film guy.
There we go.
Find your light. There we go. Find your light.
How's it going, everybody? How we doing tonight?
We're doing all right. Thank you so much for being on with us. And,
thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. And so, like I said, everybody, just a reminder that tonight, instead of paying what you can to the Echo Show, please instead donate to Black Lives Matter. There's the link. The link is also in the comments. Our good friend Allison is posting links throughout the show for you to take action. So, Cullen, so I just really want to give you the stage, man. What's going through your head today?
Oh man, it's been a day. I'll tell you that. I mean, so obviously you guys know the mural was defaced sometime last night. So, I woke up to a call from my mom, and I'm actually in Phoenix right now. So I'm 2 hours behind Chicago. My mom called me about 4:30 this morning, my time. And, I thought someone had died, just because she was so emotional about it over the phone. And, that's when I had found out that the mural was defaced. And yeah, I mean, it was just quite a few emotions kind of came over me the first hour or so. Just kind of trying to navigate how we were going to try to get it restored, who was doing this, just so many thoughts coming into your head when that happens. I mean, it was just a hell of a day to start.
Yeah. And thankfully they were able to pretty much fix it, right, with power washing, correct?
Yeah. So I wasn't able to obviously to be on location. So from the photos that I saw initially, I thought it was black paint. I did actually think it was white paint as well. It turns out it was white printer paper, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so once the power washer was on site, and again, thank you to Oak Park Public Works for being so swift with getting out there. Just a couple hours after it was discovered, and they brought their power washers and a team of about 5 or 6 guys, and the paint came off pretty well, I would say. There's some staining on the colors that we had below, but thankfully we used a really strong paint, so the power washer actually didn't affect our paint underneath.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this something that you, when everyone was planning this, did it ever come up in conversation that something like this might happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was something that came across my mind throughout working on it. But again, this was something that was done in such a short period of time. I think from the idea to it being finished was, I want to say, 8 days. So yeah, this was definitely something that, crosses your mind. But at the time I was just working on making sure it got done first and got done professionally in the way we wanted it to. And then once it was done, we had to kind of think about, the potential that, other cities have had their things vandalized. Could this happen to us? And obviously, it did last night. And, we really thought about it is because our last day of working, we had a couple, I don't know, I don't want to profile or anything here, but we had some shady characters, a couple guys who looked like they were, I don't know, a couple white guys just came through taking notes on their notepad and didn't say anything to anybody and walked away. It was pretty weird. And that's what made us think about, the potential that this could be vandalized. And, from that point on, we were talking with Oak Park police and the chief of police there, and having squad cars there the first night, because that was what we were mainly concerned about, because we had a big reveal planned for the next day, but unfortunately due to COVID and weather, we weren't able to do that. So Oak Park police was really great about watching it for the first 24 48 hours, but I will say after that kind of period of 2 days afterwards, it kind of had left our mind, because we thought that was when it was most vulnerable. And I was kind of hoping that this wasn't going to happen, just to wake up to this news this morning.
Yeah. For those of you just joining us, we're talking with Cullen Benson, one of the organizers behind the Black Lives Matter mural in Oak Park. If you have questions for him, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah.
We'll totally discuss them. I'd like to talk about, so you came up in Oak Park, or you went to OPRF, right?
Yeah, so I've lived in Oak Park since I was 1 year old, 2 years old, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So went through the works, went to By Elementary, Julian Middle, and then through the high school, I was part of the film program there.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I stayed around and went to Columbia, Chicago. So I've always been really ingrained in the Oak Park community my whole life, especially because my mom is so deeply ingrained in it herself with her, DivCo stuff and PTO things. So, I've always had a heavy foot in community things.
Yeah. And so my question, who is Oak Park? That's my question, I guess. Like, like in your opinion,
Yeah.
like what, like I think that Oak Park is in the middle of a pretty big identity crisis. And I think that there's a large disconnect between who Oak Park says it is and who Oak Park actually is.
Yeah, I mean, Oak Park on the front page is very much so an open, diverse, loving community is what we advertise it as, and that's what we do think of it as, that still, because in very much a lot of ways it still is that, and we wanted to portray that in our design, and I think we did that. But that being said, Oak Park has a ton of growing to do still as a community. I mean, this is one of the examples of, Oak Park isn't the perfect community that we always think, we grew up to think it was. And I know, underneath the surface, there's a lot of underlying things that you kind of see, I think, especially if you live your whole life here. Just growing up in it, and especially after you leave, you realize a lot more of it because you see it from an outsider's perspective,
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I've got to ask if you have any like examples of things that you might personally want to see changed, or something that you noticed when you left to college, or.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing is there's not a ton of Black business in Oak Park. I can only name a few offhand, like Surf's Up and Live Cafe. That's a major issue, and how hard it is for Black business owners to get those permits and go through all the hoops that they have to go through the township. So I think that's something that can be improved upon, as well as as tough as it may be to say, some of the leadership in Oak Park. We love our board of trustees. And we have, a few of them who are on our side with, in regards to things that are happening with the mural, and seem like they're fighting for the good in the country and the good in the community. But there's those people who have been on the board for a long time, and our village president, they say some sideways things that a lot of people's true colors are really showing. I would say, especially these past couple months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's real. So I don't know if you saw the article about the mayor and in his comments and his apology.
Yeah, I did. I saw that one a couple hours ago, and it was interesting because I wasn't aware that media outlets had been reaching out to him, because he wasn't involved in the process at all. At all. Actually, I think that he more so leaned towards the opposition. I remember he made some comments a few weeks back saying that police were just as racially profiled in America as Black people. And that right there struck a nerve for a lot of people. And just for him to come out and say, I think it was, that he wishes he could say sorry to all the Black people in the country or in the community.
I have a quote. I have the direct quote.
You do?
Okay.
Here we go.
Let us always get the quotes.
I am sorry for the pain that this misrepresentation has caused many of you. I did not and do not intend to minimize the pain and suffering that African Americans have endured through history and are going through right now, nor to suggest that police mistreatment, especially of Black men, is not an urgent problem in our country that needs to be solved and solved quickly.
Yeah, it's
very official.
It's just one of those blanket statements to me that he's trying to kind of cover his butt a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Because he might be gearing up for an unprecedented third run for a third term in office as Oak Park Village president. And so I know a lot of people are also running and, you know, have the community's backing more so than he does. So,
and just so people online know what the original quote that we're referring to is, it was, well, a few things, but it was him saying, "You're being profiled against because you're a police officer. It's the same issue on the other side. A person of color is profiled against because they're of color, and a police officer nowadays feels the same exact way," he said. "It's assumed that because they're wearing the uniform, they're not going to treat people of color in a fair manner."
Yeah, I love like that, like, oh yeah, but you're being racist because you're saying I'm racist, like argument, like drives me insane.
Yeah, and especially as someone who is, I don't know if technically, I don't think he's still the owner of Maya del Sol. I think his sons now own it, technically speaking. But as someone who was a business owner for the longest time in our community, you'd think that he would be a little bit more aware of the reality of Black people within the country as well as within our community. Just because, you know, Oak Park is not by any means, you know, like your Hinsdale or your Naperville, like an all whitewashed community. You know, we have everybody here, and people voice their opinions and have been voicing their opinions to him for years. And you know, he should, I don't know, have a better opinion on things, you would think, especially as a resident and a business owner, and amongst many things that he is.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. So as you see, like, you know, we're in the middle of this, you know, resurgence of the civil rights movement. And what do you see, like, going forward? Like, what do you vision for Oak Park's future? Like, where do you see the places where it can improve? Like, you know,
yeah,
right now?
I mean, I think Oak Park is, I'm very faithful that Oak Park will change and learn as a community in the coming years, because, you know, a lot of the younger people, my generation and few years older than me, very much, this is our first like major civil rights movement. You know, we haven't, obviously we had the early startups of the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, with the Trayvon Martin killings and whatnot. But again, we were a lot younger then, so, you know, it's not as easy for us to get involved. But, you know, now we're, you know, kind of coming into our own, and people want to make a difference in the community. You know, I know myself and Cortland Kelly, who I brought on for this, and dozens and dozens of other young people in our community are wanting to make a change and are wanting to get on the board of trustees at some point in their life, because that is something that helps make an actual change in the community, or run for village president. And I know people my age have huge aspirations for politics in Oak Park, and are confident that there will be change. Especially seeing this is our, you know, our mural is, sorry, my dog is yapping in there. The mural,
Hear the dog. So
okay, no, I just was like, what the heck? But yeah, like, you know, the mural is a permanent piece, and, you know, as many times it's the face, we will paint over it and over it and over it. And so, you know, that being said, we wanted this to be something that kids, for years to come, can, you know, when they're walking down the street and they see this, that they can ask their parents, you know, what was the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, and what did they stand for, and what is the history behind this, you know. And really all I have to say to the people who defaced it is that they're adding another piece to the story about, you know, what's going on in Oak Park, and how Oak Park really does have true colors, and, you know, they're coming out, and it's just another thing that kids will hopefully learn about and can do the same things that we wanted to do, or that we did with this art, you know, make art that makes a difference, or go out and just vote, or, you know, be a politician within your community. It's the little things, you know, that really make all the difference to us. And, you know, one small step, we get all the way, you know, whatever, we do whatever we want.
Absolutely. Once again, everybody who's just tuning in and see our numbers going up and up and up, thank you so much. Be sure to
is there,
click the likes and all that. I don't see any questions yet. So I just want to say again, you know, we got like 40 people watching, like ask questions. Like we want you to be able to engage as community members in this conversation that we're having here. So please feel free to comment. And remember that today we are asking you to, in lieu of our pay what you can, to please donate to Black Lives Matter. Thank you. It looks like we have a comment from Dr. Orson Morrison, good friend. So thank you all for your leadership. The village board seems to have dismissed youth voice in recent years related to systemic oppression. What is your message, village leadership, on centering and responding to youth voice needs and experiences? That is a wonderful comment.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and actually today, right, like in response to this defacement, Royal, a group of middle school and high school kids, organized and boom, rally. And I saw pictures of it, and like there's these beautiful chalk drawings all around the mural. And like now, like the art piece is
gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, seeing that chalk around the mural was really boosted our spirits, you know, and saw that the community does have the ability to come together, and you know, so quickly, especially, you know, this whole thing was organized like you know, this today, you know, getting 300 odd people out on the mural site, and then a whole protest to go along with it. Like, that's amazing. And you know, in regards to Orson's comment here, you know, the village has, you know, although suppressed youth voices in years past, they seem very willing to work with the youth now. I mean, our village trustees have, you know, been very cooperative with us, and we actually sent them a list of, on Monday, of things we'd like them to vow to do if, you know, if the mural gets defaced, if they'll pay, you know, for it to be redone. They will pay for other art that makes a difference within our community. And, you know, and that to me really, you know, seems like they are willing to listen to us at the very least and to work with us. So I do have hope for the village in that sense.
Preach.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact of it being art. And from what I understand, Colin, you're very much an artist yourself, and your thoughts around kind of the idea of this. Or when I was looking at it, it's kind of, this whole event was a physical manifestation of what's going on kind of politically and socially, of people literally erasing the words of, you know, Black youth and Black Lives Matter to fulfill this like all lives matter narrative. And you kind of mentioned this before, but I'm kind of curious if you have any thoughts around, you know, what you hope that what you hope to share with others about art, and what it can mean, and how it can mean a community. What does art kind of mean for a community?
Yeah, I mean, it means the world, really. And it's, like I said, it's something that will be here for years to come, and it is now a part and ingrained within Oak Park's history. And because its location is so close to the high school and right off of Lake Street, and you could see it from the Green Line, it's going to be seen by so many kids and you know, younger people in the next generation. So we hoped to, you know, have art that inspires youth to create art. Not just anything, but something that makes a difference and is meaningful to them and to who they are personally. I mean, this was not the first beautiful piece of Black art in Oak Park. You know, if you see on the CTA Green Line tracks, just around the corner from where we did our mural, there's, you know, a beautiful painting of Lauryn Hill there. There's an MLK one. There's, you know, it's just some gorgeous pieces of work that the Oak Park Area Arts Council and Camille Wilson White, they get those things done. And, you know, they very much so realize as well that art has a very important place within every community, not just our community.
Amen.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Kathleen. Here said, "Thank you for keeping this topic on the front burner. It's time for change. I am so proud of the young people taking such an initiative to help us all lead. Help lead us all in the right direction."
Yeah.
I heard the dog that time. I was like,
sorry, I know
you're all good.
Yappy one.
But then my brain just like stopped.
Yeah, that's all right. That's a little crazy. Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. It is time for a change, very much so.
Yeah.
And we're here to make that change within our community, and hopefully others.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about, because like I feel like that, right? So I think part of the argument with this all lives matter stuff is like a lack of intersection, but there was intersection baked into the fabric of the piece that you did. Like, so talk about the color scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, so we played with a few different designs originally, and actually we had a different design until I believe the night before, we kind of saw how we were mixing the colors, and how they came out. So the original colors we had to work with were actually only red, yellow, blue, black, and white, because it's the paint that they use to paint like crosswalks and whatnot in. So there's not a whole lot of variant in colors. So we had to mix these colors. And once we saw just how like amazing they turned out, we were like, okay, well, let's go with our design that has 9 color palettes in it. We can do all these gorgeous colors because, one thing we really wanted to show was that, because it's off of a main street and because you can see it off the green line, that Oak Park is a very colorful community, so to speak. We do have people from every race, ethnicity, background, within our community, and very much so ingrained in our community. And that's something we wanted to portray and, portray for years to come. And hopefully, you do see with a lot of the apartments being built in Oak Park and the high rises, that Oak Park, is kind of going through, I don't want to say a gentrification, but a little bit of a whitewash right now. Right. And so with the color scheme, we wanted to make sure that, it felt inclusive to everyone, Black, brown people, people of LGBTQ, just anyone is welcome in our community, and we wanted it to be known that they are welcome for years and years to come.
Thank you so much. So we real quick, another advertisement here for Shabby Fly. So if you want to have a piece of the mural and colors of the design, Shabby Fly did a shirt design that is the mural.
Yeah, I think they did a shirt, sweater, masks. They did quite a bit of it.
I'm planning on buying a bunch of that, and in the proceeds, right? Like a large percentage of the proceeds are going to charities, correct?
Yeah, 75%, and then the rest is going to be going to Spilt Red Collective, which is the collective that we've created to fund other projects down the line. Hopefully something coming up in Evanston and just future art that, will show something and make a difference for years to come.
Cool. We have another question here for you from Michelle Roser Major. Do you have any film or other art projects we can support? You just mentioned the Evanston project coming up.
Yeah, so nothing, film wise that, can be supported, but we do plan on doing a project in one of the Evanston I think it's a middle school. We're doing a 40-foot mural there within the next month or two before the school year starts. And so we will be posting updates within the Oak Park residents chat on our individual Facebooks, this and that, just to kind of get the word out there that we're taking donations for this project. We're looking for volunteers from the Evanston community mostly. We're going to be looking at that point, but we are willing to take donations from people in other communities as well as Oak Park, which is very much so considered Evanston's sister city in many ways. So yeah, I mean, you could do that and keep an eye out for those donation posts.
That's awesome. Do you see more art pieces like the mural going up in Oak Park and like surrounding areas?
I mean, we haven't seen anything within Oak Park, since this, yet. It's only been a couple weeks, but I do know that there was a design proposed for the CTA tracks for about 18 slots in that. So that is going to be quite a large one as well. I know that in the surrounding city of Chicago, there's in the coming days after the George Floyd protests, the bulk of them, those first few days, when there was people putting boards on their on their windows and whatnots and businesses. There were some beautiful Black artists coming through. I mean, if you walk down Milwaukee Avenue and Logan Square and Wicker Park, you will just, it's like walking through a museum, really. And it's just it was all Black and brown artists, working and creating what they wanted and showing their feelings through a paintbrush.
Yeah.
Really, really gorgeous. Yeah.
My hope is that so the action was the mural, right? And then this reaction that happened, this hateful reaction happened. Now I want to see the reaction to that be more and more murals popping up, right? Try and black all these out. See how far you get.
It'd be great, just brainstorming here. But it'd be cool to do some cross collab between cities. It would be interesting to maybe for us in Oak Park to have a art collab with Forest Park and with Austin and just surrounding areas. Again, just brainstorming. I imagine beautiful murals that span across both or all of the surrounding cities.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Just kind of standing in solidarity with one another.
Yeah.
That'd be dope, all throughout Lake Street or Madison or something. Somebody crosses through multiple neighborhoods, right? So Austin.
Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of artists would be super willing and wanting to do something like that. So it's definitely something.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
You can think about.
So we're about at the end of this segment. I want everybody to stay tuned because there's this thing that happened in Forest Park. We have this town hall and policing that came up with zero notice and zero collaboration with the community that we're very upset about, that we'd like to talk about after this. So please stay tuned for that. I want everybody to thanks so much to Cullen for being on tonight and just sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And your artistry is very inspiring. And like I said, we're going to talk because I want to, I got that collab I want to talk to you about. So, you were frozen for a second. I think you're back. Are you back?
Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah, you were frozen too.
Yeah. So, want to thank you for being on. I want to,
definitely.
Remember, we're going to talk about that collaboration. I want to talk to you a lot about that.
Plotting about.
We've got a couple things in the works, me and Maui. We do.
Yeah, we're gonna make some stuff happen. I'm very excited about supporting our youth, especially in artistry, because that's how we tell our story, right? That's that's the language of the oppressed.
Yes, it is.
So we're very, very excited to see what's happening and support you in any way that we can.
Thank you very much, and thanks so much for having me on, guys. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thanks to all the community members who came out and our wonderful volunteers who helped make this mural come to fruition, as well as all the community members and trustees who came out to show support for the mural today. So we thank everyone so much, and we can't wait to be making more stuff around the community.
Thank you so much, Cullen.
Gotta come back from Phoenix, though.
Yes, I will be soon. I'll be back. I'm telling you, I will. I promise you.
Yeah, tell everybody in Phoenix that their basketball team is garbage.
I haven't left the house in months, man. It's crazy out here. I'll tell them after coronavirus.
Sounds good, brother. Sounds good.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks so much for having me. Peace, Lotus.
Bye.
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 All right, so that's our first guest. I hope everybody stays on because we have some more local business happening, more stuff that you need to be aware about. So here's a quick backstory. Yesterday on Facebook, a post was put up by the Village of Forest Park that there was going to be a town hall on policing. This is something that's very important to us right now and in our community. That town hall is happening tomorrow. We were given 2 days notice on Facebook. Now, apparently, from our research, we found out that they did actually put up a post earlier on their website, on their archaic website, on July 2nd, right before a holiday weekend. Not very happy about it. And further context, our mayor was just on July 4th live stream talking about visioning our future as a community with members of Forest Park Against Racism, of which I am a member. And this did not come up. So it's pretty shocking. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So we have two wonderful guests we're going to bring in right now. We have Monique Cotton Yancey and Betty Alzamora. joining us today. Two very dear friends. How are you this evening?
Hey, friend, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm angry today. I'm angry today. Like all the news was like not good news today, and I was not happy about that. So yeah, I just gave us a quick little overview of what happened. I'd love if we can get your initial thoughts when you saw that social media post. I don't know if you saw it first or if you saw it in our group chat, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Monique, want to give it a shot? Or you want me to start?
I can start. My first thought was, oh crap! I'm on a school board in our meeting where we tell all the parents exactly what our reopening plan is tomorrow during the same time. And our school board meetings are voted on the year before, but it's always the second Thursday of the month. Always, always, always. And we have this huge meeting that we're planning, and people need to come, people need to listen, because it's a big thing. They need to know what's going to happen with their kids. They need to be able to comment. So when I saw that, it was like, how did this happen? Why is someone not checking what else is happening in the community if you're going to do something that's big? And why it would have taken 2 seconds to say, I wonder where something else is going on.
Yeah.
And it led me to think back, if you think about the history of the village, who's worked in a village hall, who's been making the decisions, these are not people that would send their kids to Forest Park schools, even if they were residents. So they have never really taken the time and may not have even cared what's going on in the schools. And it brought up a lot of other things that I was thinking of, where why don't we have a community calendar? This is something that could have been avoided. I joined Forest Park Against Racism to have these type of events. So these are two things that I'm very passionate about. And it's not a choice. I'm a school board member. I'm an elected person. I have to go to the board meeting. And there was no thought of, is it going to be online? Is it going to be recorded? When it was there, it was just like, oh, we got a meeting and it's going to be outside. That's it. Yeah. So I was initially very, very upset about it.
Yeah. So I think I would add to all of what Monique just said. I was indignant. I found out through just random village posts that I saw yesterday, and I think I might have been the one to reach out to you guys to let you know that this was taking place. Did a little digging around. It turns out the village had actually advertised the event on their new website on Thursday at some stage before a long holiday weekend. So chances are nobody was actually going to see it. We did have a forum on Saturday where the event could have been promoted. It was not mentioned. And it really wasn't until yesterday that we became aware that this thing was happening on Thursday night. Again, to Monique's point, it's a scheduling conflict with a very important school board meeting where a lot of parents want to actually attend, because this is really discussing return to school in in the midst of a pandemic. So I think my initial feelings are like yours, Maui. It just feels like, it's 2 days notice effectively for the beginning of a very important conversation. But I think, part of what I'm taking away from it is that there's lessons to be learned, from both the village side as well as ours. And the biggest takeaway that I have is, the village really, what I want to do is reach out and continue to encourage to them that we have to do these events in partnership. You have to involve community. This can't be a one-sided effort where, our chief of police actually presents, thoughts on policing in Forest Park and not engage the community in the content or the agenda or the format. So I think what I'd like to, put forth, and this is, why I joined Forest Park Against Racism, is that this is the start of a conversation. This is really just to get information from the village, a baseline, if you will. But there will be a series of other events that we will be hosting. We will be working with other members of community, with other people that are part of Forest Park Against Racism, to be able to continue to have these conversations. I'm glad that the village is willing to put forth their point of view, their position, their perspective. But I would also encourage them to think that this by no way and means is the end of it. This is not a box checked. This is just the start of a conversation. There'll be more to be had. And I'm sure that the outcome of all of this will be an agenda for potential changes.
Right.
That we are all going to be working towards. You know, it's got to be a thoughtful process that involves all of us.
Something I thought was interesting was in regards to that this needs to be a conversation. Right now, it seems like from the announcement that they put out, they said this meeting is intended to provide an opportunity for residents to learn about our police department's policies and to ask questions about the policies. Is that what you're referring to? And you said that when you were talking about that?
Yeah, so that's how they're positioning it. And I think what, you know, in conversations with other people and in a recent text exchange with one of our other Forest Park Against Racism members, Ken Snyder, I think, you know, the fundamental thing I'm taking away from it is let's not lose sight of the fact that the ability for all of us to affect and drive change is within all of us. So the fact that the village has reached out and said, we're going to tell you what we do, doesn't necessarily follow that we can't then respectfully challenge and say there are other things that we can do to drive change. The people have the power.
Right. But I do think that, you know, if they were doing the event, if they wanted to show, you know, where they stood, that then, you know, Aftanis should have reached out to the community, should have reached out to, you know, community leaders that are advocating for this change and seed some of that power, seed some of that perspective that they're trying to put out and realize that there is a deep, historic, systemic reason why we are so distrustful of his institution. Right. And as such, you know, he needs to be quiet and listen, not necessarily offer his perspective of where the police are at. You know, I have no idea how this event is going to go tomorrow. You know, as Monique said, originally there was no digital component. You know, would you think they would do if they put it up so quickly that they would have some sort of live stream so that people cannot rearrange their schedule? I can't be there tomorrow. Right, I have family commitments. I can't be there tomorrow. You know, now we let them hear it online, and today they said we have heard many concerns regarding tomorrow's town hall discussion. We will be proceeding with the meeting as scheduled. So that is, you know, first ask was denied to reschedule it, not on a day where people have to choose between their children and police. That's not cool. We recognize this might not be ideal. However, we've also implemented a virtual component, and the meeting will be recorded and available the following day. And I did hear, I've asked further on the village Facebook page, and they did confirm that we would be able to ask questions through the Zoom chat. So that's an improvement, right? But we shouldn't have to ask for that. Like, that should be obvious. We shouldn't have to, for the last day, you're like, hey, what about us? Hello. You know, that's garbage.
Yeah. It is tone deaf.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. And it's also an opportunity for us to take the information that we're going to get from them and then drive the change moving forward.
Right. Because I see a community-led town hall coming out of this. We can take some of that information, but I really want to see more Black and brown voices, such as both of you amazing queens before me, you know, leading the conversation, right? Leading the conversation. Like, I want to hear those perspectives. I don't want to hear the cops' perspectives.
Yeah.
Let's say there's some people that may have 6 to 8 p.m. open tomorrow, and you like to pass a word along. What would you say to the people watching that are able to attend?
Monique, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so what this also made me very aware of is I thought, like, when we did our event, the Forest Park Against Racism, or FPAR, we made it clear what our intentions were. So I kind of feel like it was kind of a slight where they didn't reach out to someone and say, hey, I know you guys are starting this. This is what's happening, or kind of collaborate with us. So from that, I want them to know that we didn't just do this one event and go away. We will be coming back, and we will be making ourselves more vocal in the community, because it seems like that's what's, I'm guessing that's what's missing, because that would be their defense, that we're going to amp, and I talked with Betty about this. Sorry, now I feel like we need to amp up our presence in the community,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
I feel like people, maybe they forgot about us. We did this great event and we're not visible anymore. So not as a threat, but just to know that we're going to start producing stuff. We're going to be a lot more vocal, because apparently we haven't done enough. We haven't told our position enough to where we're not considered when something like this, where we told them, I thought, was our position. So it's going to be a lot more vocal people. It's not going to be just one meeting. They can come, they can participate, or we could do it. We're still going to do it. So kind of like an open invitation to try to go forward and actually collaborate with us, or we're going to go forward and get stuff done.
Absolutely. For those of you just joining us, we're talking about the town hall happening tomorrow on policing in Forest Park, and the, in my opinion, botched rollout of it. It is scheduled at the same time as the school board meeting that will be addressing what school next year is going to look like. That's a really hard decision for people to make. In the community, and especially when policing is something that is so in the national conversation right now. I'm very, very disappointed in this. I also want to remind you that today, in lieu of paying what you can for the Echo Show, we're asking you not to do that. Please do not give to Echo Theater Collective today. Please instead give to Black Lives Matter. The link is here. This was inspired by the Black Lives Matter mural that was defaced sometime last night. So I just wanted to keep that in the public consciousness as well. So let's talk about that real quick. I'd love to get your perspectives on that. I don't know if either of you saw what was happening with the mural defacement that happened in Oak Park last night.
I was finding out about the mural defacement roughly at the same time I was finding out about the town hall for tomorrow. It's heartbreaking. We've lived a similar set of circumstances in Forest Park. We've had our mural defaced since January of last year. So when Cullen speaks of what this feels like, it resonates with me. All the fury, all the anger, all the rage. My hat's off to all the community members that I've worked with over the last year and a half. Big shout out to Jeff and Amy Benz-Calvi, who have always been there to help clean up the mural. But this is why, this is for me the genesis of Forest Park Against Racism, Maui. It's the fact that we can't just continue fixing somebody else's vandalism. When we're talking about systemic racism or things that happen that are driven by systems that have been in place for far longer than any of us, we have to be mindful that it's not just about fixing a mural that has been defaced. It's about changing fundamentally practices and laws and behaviors behind it so that becomes a sustainable effort. It's about education. It's about, looking at all the systems. This is why, for me, the fact that this meeting tomorrow coincides with the school board is just so, it just is so bogus, because education should take a lead in all of this. We should have actually had the town hall not conflict. So yeah, the mural hurts. The mural in Oak Park hurts because we've lived that pain in Forest Park, and we've been, having to take care of our own vandalism acts in this community. We've had other vandalism acts happen as well, with artworks and with people's private property. So
the swastika right on the garage.
Yeah, and as recently as a couple of days ago, a local resident had a rock thrown through her back window in her car because it said Black Lives Matter. I mean, what have we
I walk past that car every day on my walks.
Yeah. So
and that person is a dear friend, and yeah.
So yeah, it hurts. It hurts deeply, and I'm pissed. Forgive the language, but
so that's
we have
the action
to
and the reaction, right? It's the, we take action, and there is a reaction.
Right.
I was on. I'm not like a member of any of the Forest Park groups because I find them to be pretty toxic for the most part. The underground build, all those, like there's a lot of pretty racist people on there, and I saw some pretty disturbing stuff just about the mural today.
Yeah.
And so I asked the question of Cullen earlier, who is Oak Park? And so I guess my question is, who is Forest Park? Because I think that's a very different question. I think Forest Park is in a very different space than Oak Park is. I think Forest Park is perhaps a little bit more honest about where it's at. But in that it has its own unique set of challenges. So I guess my question to you is, who is Forest Park, and who is Forest Park now, and who do we want it to be?
The way I see Forest Park has a history of residents that have been here for generations, and there becomes like a sense of entitlement with that, where it's like, oh, my such and such did this, so I'm this. I've been here my whole life, and my mom has been here the whole life. Oh, you've only been here 15 years. Oh, that's nothing, because this town is mine, and we kind of just let you stay here. It's kind of the feeling that they get. That's been changing. A lot of people are stepping up. You can see that in who's running for, positions in the town. Whether they win or lose, there's more interest being done. There's more people just getting involved that haven't been lifelong residents. I've been here 15 years. There's people that just moved in and saying, okay, I see potential in this town. Here's what I can do to make it even greater. So I feel Forest Park down the line, there will always be, with a small town, there's always going to be that sense of, you're from here. Maybe, like, I feel like I say this, but then my kids have been here, and because I'm so involved in the community, they may have that attitude too. Like, my mom did this, or I'm not going to let it happen. But it's something that happens in a small town. I don't know if there's any way around it, but I think it's changing more of, yes, my parent, aunt, uncle, grandfather got us to this. This is what I'm doing now to keep us moving forward. If I can see that change just with the youth today and people coming up where they're trying to push it forward and make it, more of not a us versus them. This is one town. We should be of one people and do stuff that, it may not benefit me whatsoever. That's fine. If it's benefiting our town, I'm all for it. Call me up if you need me to sign up for a day, do a volunteer shift. I'm for that. I think it's not, because it's more people getting involved. So you're not always seeing the same faces at every event. There's more and more community members, which is very encouraging.
Yeah. That was one of the awesome things that we saw with the Juneteenth event. Somebody commented on our volunteer list that there were names there that we had never seen before. In all this time of doing community organizing in Forest Park, there were people that were coming in genuine, and we're still getting these requests. So to all of you who are reaching out to Forest Park Against Racism, we are about to send information on next steps. What we want to do is collect your thoughts, your input. What do you think matters? What are the important things? We hear some resonating themes across the village, and we want to corroborate that with you all so that we can all together work on what these concrete next steps for systemic change may look like moving forward. Because I think, to answer your question, Maui, who is Forest Park? It just feels, I'm encouraged by the fact that I'm hearing voices that in the 13 years that I've been in this village, I hadn't heard before. I'm encouraged by the amount of youth leaders that are stepping up, not because they didn't care before, but because they're finding their voices, and I'm so deeply inspired by those voices. I will follow their lead. that is to me who Forest Park is now. And, you know, Monique alludes to it. There is a group of people within this village. They've been here for generations. They bring wisdom and perspective on things that may not be what I knew or what I've known for the 13 years that I've been here. I don't want to discredit that, but I also want to make room for change and for growth. And we're seeing that. We are the, you know, what is it? Big city access, small town charm. I just don't want to be small-minded.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a lot more people. And I just have to give a big shout out to all of you, Monique and everybody who works in the school systems. This doubling down that I'm seeing from so many people saying, you know, we can make this not just a good school district, but a great one. The work that's been done at the high schools, the work that Monique's engaged in middle schools. I mean, good golly, the potential. That's what Forest Park is.
Yeah, but like that's yes. Yes. Right. But like in looking at the future, right? Like I'm seeing like the investment that's happening in the high school, right? Because that high school is a hub, and it's not just a hub for Forest Park, but for Maywood, and you know, as well. Yeah. And you know, as well as PMSA, and seeing hopefully bridges built between those two communities. I grew up in Maywood. I live in Forest Park. Those two communities mean a lot to me. You know, figuring out how to connect the youth in Forest Park, the youth in Maywood, and the youth in Oak Park, and the youth in Austin. You know, like so that they can create a coalition of leaders, right, to address stuff in the greater West Side area, right? Like they start doing the work in your communities, start building the bridges to the communities on your shoulders. And create a bigger and bigger coalition, and like you said, and let the youth lead.
Let the youth lead.
Let the youth lead, because like and the day after our event on the bridge, I facilitated this event in Oak Park with the kids, and it was all about them using their voice. Right. I want to see more of that. I want to see more engagement with young kids in our grade schools in Forest Park. I want to see us be intentional about making sure that those kids understand, like, this is your community. If there's change that you want to see, you should be able to voice that. Right. Mm-hmm. Like there's so much that we can do as adults to cede that power, not just to traditionally marginalized groups, but also to traditionally marginalized children that are told you don't have a voice until you're 18.
Now, to add to that point so I'm not actually a longtime resident of Oak Park, but I plan on being, and I plan on raising kids in the area and all of that. And one thing that, just to highlight how important this work is, as someone who grew up from another state that was like more conservative, these towns in Illinois, in New York, and California are looked up to as like the pinnacle of progressivism in this state. And there is that kind of pressure, I feel like, that right now we're not meeting those expectations. Like we aren't that yet. And if we can't figure it out, how can we expect the rest of the country to, when they're already looking at us to be that model? Mm-hmm. And I guess this is maybe coming from more of a slightly more outside perspective. Because like there's some people that they'll never be able to live in a community as active as this. Yeah. So yeah. I wanted to know what maybe your thoughts are about that too. But it's my brief input.
That's good. Monique?
So with people that aren't actually here, I don't believe that you can't live in a community like this. I think your community is what you make it. So take your cues from our missteps, our what we accomplish, what we don't accomplish, what you see failing, and use that as a platform to say, this is what you want. Because we don't know, and it's a lot of times what happens in some neighborhoods where they get stuck at, they don't have that outside vision. They just know very with blinders on. This is all I know, so this is all I can hope for. And if you're looking at those other towns, just know that it does not have to be that way. Like, you know, I'm from the west side of Chicago, and you know, right along the border, we lived on Menard. Was that like 4 blocks in from Austin, 5 blocks? And so when we went to the park, we went cross over to Austin Oak Park. So I was familiar with the area. And then when I was, you know, when I decided, you know, to move out on my own, Oak Park was out of my price range. So I looked at Forest Park, was like, because I would go to the library and I would go to the park and to the pool. And so that's how, you know, because I knew these towns were out there and it was still within my comfort zone. I'm still, you know, my mom at the time was still on the west side, so I could still hop back over, still have that comfort. But because I was exposed to this, these other neighborhoods and these other opportunities, I knew what I wanted. And so it goes back to kind of education where in school is so much more than learning about English, math, that you need to have a community within the school to teach kids what those options are. My kids have been fortunate to where we have a very international friend base. So they know what their options are as far as like going to college. They know they don't have to go here. They can go overseas. Well, with COVID, nobody's going anywhere. But once that's over, they know their options overseas. They know there's other things out there because fortunately they've just been exposed to it. And I feel like schools need to take that, everywhere need to take on that role where, yes, we need to teach them the basic and fundamentals, but we need to teach them basically how to be people, show them what else is out there so they can strive for more than what they currently have. And that's whether it's a well-to-do district, whether it's a poor district, across the board, I feel like that needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, we are at our time, so I want to thank both of you so much for coming on such short notice and talking about this. This is so important. I want to make sure everybody knows that the town hall is tomorrow here's the link for it. It's going to go from 6 till 8 p.m. It's outdoors. Do you remember where it's happening? It's in a parking lot somewhere, right?
The parking lot of the Village building.
The Village building. Yeah. So it's a parking lot at Village Hall. So it's going to be an outdoor event, but they will be putting up on Zoom. If you go to the Village of Forest Park website or the Facebook page, you can find the registration for the Zoom. They will be taking your questions on Zoom as well. Whatever you can do to boost the signal of this, because with such little time, it's hard to get the word spread very quickly. So my action for people that are watching or people that watch the replay is to please repost the link to this town hall. Let your friends know in Forest Park this is happening. If you think that they don't know that this is happening, because they need to be important part of the conversation. Unfortunately, simultaneously, this is happening at the same time as the village board or the school board meeting to talk about what's happening next year with the schools in terms of operating through COVID. Both of these are very important. So if you can't attend one, attend the other. Do whatever you can to turn up for the Village of Forest Park, and look for information. I think tomorrow, are we posting some announcements on FPAR?
Possibly tomorrow after the town hall.
Yeah.
We'll have some information up there. We want to make sure that people have that we have undivided attention for either the town hall or the school board meeting, both of which are incredibly important.
Yeah.
But yeah, people will be hearing from Forest Park Against Racism.
Yeah. So and understand, like, for those, because we have a lot of people asking, like, so what's next with Forest Park Against Racism? What's next? And understand that, like, a few weeks ago, Forest Park Against Racism did not exist. And as much as we want to hit the ground running and do all of the things that, when dealing with issues, systemic issues that are so complex and so deeply interwoven, even within a small scale as a village, that it takes time and intention and planning to do it properly. We wouldn't want to do anything half-cocked or uninformed. We don't want to do anything that will be harmful to the movement. So we want to make sure that we are being very intentional about our first steps as we are this new organization. So we do apologize that we haven't had anything to follow up with yet. But when we do, it will be powerful, because the people that we are working with, I'm telling you, I'm in these conversations and I'm in awe of the grace and the love and the commitment of these people. And I'm telling you that when we announce what we're doing, you will be very happy and excited to be a part of this. So once again, thank you two so much. I'm going to pop you out here, and then we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much. I love you both.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm sorry to save your number, Monique. It's saved in my phone now. All right, cousin.
Okay, cousin.
I saved it. I saved it. I promise.
Okay.
All right. Now, y'all.
Bye.
All right, Lotus. You have any final thoughts before we sign off?
The theme of patient enthusiasm.
I like that. I like that. I want to thank you so much for co-facilitating this on such short notice. And I love that, like, you're ready with, like, all of the information and the links and quotes, and you're just a consummate professional. I want to thank you so much for being on with me tonight. Thank you, Orson, for your kind words. And I would like to close with a couple quick meditations that have been on my mind today. So the through line, right, with this defacement of this mural, with this quick rollout of this town hall, the through line for me is silence, is trying to silence people, right? Like the painting over Black Lives Matter and turning it into an All Lives Matter mural, right? That's trying to silence those voices, those youth voices that painted that amazing, beautiful, loving mural, was defaced in hate. It
wasn't even good hate too. It was
right.
Copy paper hate.
Right. They couldn't even use paint, right? Like they couldn't even use paint, and they couldn't do it in the morning. Like if you believe so much about something, don't be a coward about it. Say it to my face, Like I saw earlier today, somebody else like did the same thing, but they did it in broad daylight, and I'm like, you know what? At least they did it, in broad daylight, and this is who I am. Okay, I can't respect it, but I guess,
people
whatever.
want to quietly keep their power.
Right. But at least they're not cowardly about their hate. Yeah. Right. The thing with the town hall, right?
We need to meet each other.
If you value these voices, if you value your community, if you're saying that, like, I'm taking this issue of policing and figuring out how to defund the police, if you're, and working with the community to minimize the scope so that we stop inflicting harm upon Black bodies. If you believe in these things, then your actions need to be reflective of it. That's for individual people. That's for individual institutions. That's for governmental systems, for villages, for countries, for the world. I use this quote all the time. I'm going to use it again. I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. James Baldwin. Right? Like, don't tell me that you believe in one thing and then do something that is counter to that. Right? Because I won't believe what you're saying. If you're saying I love you while you're stabbing me in the back, that's not cool. Right. So please, if you believe that Black bodies mean just as much as white bodies, then show that in your action. Show it in your action. Show it by supporting these youth that are fighting for their lives out here on the front lines, fighting for my life. Like Forrest Parkers, if you say that you believe in our school systems, like, send your kids to Proviso East. Stop sending your kids to private schools and not investing in your community. We're not, the scary monsters that go bump in the night. Like, it's a fallacy that you've been fed. It goes all the way back to friggin' Birth of the Nation, D.W. Griffith. This reframing of Black people to be these, these scary creatures that are going to rape your women is a fallacy. We live, we love, we bleed just like anybody else. And we do it in the face of insurmountable oppression. And we still find ways to thrive and create and do beautiful things. And don't just think that we're just victims, because we're not. right? We're whole people doing whole beautiful things. We create music, we create innovations in science and in literature, and some of the greatest minds of this country are Black minds.
Yeah, we just talked to Cullen.
We just talked to Cullen, right? Like, that young man is going to go in amazing places that I can't even imagine. I can't even bring words to. But he'll tell you his story. And I guarantee you, 10 years from now, when you see that young man on the red carpet for making the next Moonlight, right? Like, come on, let's go. Like, that's our future. I'm sorry this went a little long today, but I'm fired up about everything that I'm seeing today. So love you. I love all of you. And as we always close our show, please remember to, in all things, echo love. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
And